The BlokeBusters podcast is a proud member of the Pod Bros Network, where you can find us as well as other excellent podcasts such as Sarcasm City, Worst Millennials, and Late Night Gamers at podbros.com. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of the BlokeBusters podcast.
Tonight's story is somewhat unique and calls for a different kind of introduction.
Who's going off? Today we are canceling the apocalypse!
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet.
And this is?
Lilu Dallas Multipass.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Houston, we have a problem.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Now, where was I?
Welcome to episode 110 of BlokeBusters. I am Paul, and today I am joined by the wonderful ladies, Donna and Laura from the Soapy Madams Podcast.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hello.
We're doing good, yeah.
Yeah, in unison already. Alright, that's fun. Alright, so why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about what your podcast does?
We are a podcast where we talk about and contrast the different themes and tropes of British versus American soap operas, and we watch 4 soap operas. We watch Corey, Emmerdale, EastEnders, and General Hospital is our American one that we watch, and we talk about them all every week, and we have a big laugh and generally just
Gossip.
crack each other up.
Gossip and gossip.
Gossip and crack each other up. That's what we do. So it's a lot of fun, and you don't even really have to watch soap operas to enjoy them, because we sum up everything that's going on, and the people that listen to our show that don't watch soap operas say that they can keep up with the stories just with us telling them over and over again. After a while they get familiar with who the characters are, and they like it. So it's fun. It's a good time. It's very silly.
Yeah, fair enough. And for those of you uninitiated, Corey means Coronation Street.
Yes.
Which is possibly the longest running English soap, I think. It's been going quite a while.
Yes, it has.
Very long time.
So, yes, very quickly I'll get sort of nuts and bolts stuff out of the way, and we can dive right into why you guys are here. So you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or Vero at BlokeBusters. You can email us, theblokes@blokebusters.com. You can go to blokebusters.com and check out a lovely website. You can go to podbros.com and look for us there, as well as other fine shows. We also now have a Patreon account where you can find some rewards just kind of sitting around there, and if you wish to throw some money at us, that would be absolutely lovely. And once we get to 10 patrons, we are going to start releasing the raw audio that is recorded when we're doing this, and that includes the pre-record stuff that we test just to make sure the audio is working. So for all patrons, they'll get to listen to that if they wish to. Alright, and with all of that, so you guys are coming on here, and I said, hey, is there anything you want to record about? And you suggested Soapdish, and my response was, what's that? Because I've never heard of it before.
Mine too. Oh, you hadn't seen it? Yeah, that's right, because it wasn't released in England, right? Or anywhere in the UK.
Not. No.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that makes sense, because it's, it's American. So. It's an American soap opera farce, so.
Yes. So,
I'm personally offended that I've never heard of this before, because I loved it. I was so excited.
So yes, this film directed by Michael Hoffman, and I had a quick look at his filmography, and I've not seen anything else that he's done. And it had a budget of $25 million, and it managed to do at the box office entirely domestically $36,489,888 So it made it budget back, but if you take into account the promotional side, it might not have made all of it budget back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it didn't have to advertise outside of the US, so it actually might have just broken even there.
Yeah.
So
right. Is that pretty typical for this kind of comedy in your experience? I was curious about that.
I would say this style is very different from something I'd really seen before. I'm not sure what to compare it to, but I would say that something like this is a little bit niche. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say, a niche comedy,
So yeah, I think that's probably what I would have expected from it, especially since it only released in America. So yes, this film has a bit of a cast to it. So we'll get into most of them, but I'll just throw them out really quick, and then we can actually talk about the plot. But we got Sally Field,
I
Kevin
just wanted
Kline.
to mention to you. I'm sorry.
No,
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to mention to you that the director directed a movie called Restoration, which you should also watch. That's really good.
Restoration. All right.
It's the
I'll
only
make a
one I
note of that.
recognize on the list, but it is fabulous. It's an early Robert Downey Jr. thing, and it has the actor that played who's the professor in Harry Potter that's the werewolf?
That's Lupin. So that is
yeah,
David
you don't need, you
Thewlis.
can edit this out if you want. I'm sorry. David Thewlis, yes. David Thewlis is in it as well, and also a whole bunch of other people that are wonderful, so check it out. It's really good.
And well, speaking of people that that are in films, yes, this one has, and I'm just going to run down the list here. Sally Field, Kevin Kline, Robert Downey Jr., Kathy Moriarty, Elizabeth Shue, Whoopi Goldberg, Carrie Fisher, Gary Marshall, Terry Hatcher, Kathy Najimy, Paul Johansson, and Sheila Kelly are the main listed cast here, and that's one hell of a list.
That is a
really.
really, really good cast.
And yes,
It
for
was
those of you
huge.
wondering, this film came out in 1991, so it is a very young Robert Downey Jr.
It's a baby.
Very much so, and also one of the stars of General Hospital that's been on there for years, probably 30 years, Finola Hughes plays Anna Devane in General Hospital, and she's in there as well. So that's a little Easter egg for the soap fans. There may be other soap actors in there too. I'm just not really, I don't know. That's the only one I recognize. So, yeah.
All right, so I think probably the best place to start then with this is sort of just initial thoughts on the film. So I will go first here just because I obviously had never heard of this before you mentioned it, and so I sat down to watch it, and I'll be perfectly honest, this film took me 3 separate watches to get through.
Really?
Yes, I was watching it, and I think it's kind of good in that way because it clearly set out to be what it actually was parodying, but it felt so much like an American soap opera that I had trouble sitting through it. Now, I will say there are several bits in it that I thought were very good, and some of the acting is just clearly they're having fun and it's great to watch. But yes, it feels so much like an American soap opera that I would have trouble saying that I really enjoyed it. but I am glad that I watched it. So I'll leave it at that. So what about you two then?
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
You go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and
Yeah.
I thought it was a very true depiction of the American soaps. But what I did have trouble with was the several levels of reality and character names in this. I was like, okay, so you're what? You're who? So I shall refer to them as the actor's name probably through most of this.
Well, she was struggling, like, I can't remember the character's name that's playing the character. What character are they playing in the fake soap, and what's the name of the actor on this? That was really funny.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
Well, I love this film. It's one of my favorites, and because I love American soap operas for probably exactly the reasons that you find them distasteful, because they are glitzy and unrealistic, and everybody's a superstar or a mafia kingpin, or they all live in mansions, or they're doctors. And there's no postmen on American soap operas. It's a complete fantasy world. And everything that happens is ridiculously overdramatic and overdone, and everyone's beautiful and they all have great teeth, and that's what I love about it, because it's so goofy. It's a fantasy that's contemporary. It's contemporary fantasy of the best possible kind, and I love it so much that I love to make fun of it. And this was just so good. It was so amazing, because they were going through, and the main plot, I can tell you that's probably been a plot that's been done in every American soap opera that there is, and probably some British ones too, if we're honest, right? So
on a lesser scale.
And I love the one-liners. Oh my gosh, the one-liners, I just love that kind of movie. So the humor is in the style of Clue, and things like that, where you have these just sort of snappy one-liners that just, you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? And you're just laughing. You're like, I don't know what's going on, but that was hilarious.
Pretty much me.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that it felt Clue-esque for some of it, although nothing ever quite came close to, say, Madeline Kahn's just flames on the side of my face.
Yes, yeah. But it's funny to watch Sally Field in comedic stuff, because she's such a powerful dramatic actress that it's interesting that she can also do jokes. She can tell jokes too, so it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I love that thing about her saying that she doesn't want a turban on her head. She's like, I'm not Gloria Swanson. She's dead. I'm 42 and I don't want to look like a dead actress.
I love Sally Field.
And the
She's
turban
so
thing
good.
was hilarious. Because you might actually see like somebody wearing a it's not like a proper turban. It's just one of those ladies' hats that they call the turban style hat. And it went out of fashion in the 30s. But you'll still occasionally see really outdated stuff like that on soaps every now and then. So
yes.
that cracked me up.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch this, and like I said, I had the trouble getting through it, but that entirely because of how well it did what it was trying to do. But yeah, I think probably my favorite thing about this film was Kevin Kline.
Yes, oh my gosh, he's so funny.
Yeah, because he clearly was the person having the most fun on set. I think he was able to just play this complete sort of buffoon who he feels he's just such a proper actor. And
yes,
he just didn't get his proper chance because someone screwed him over. and yeah, it was just so wonderful. And he clearly thinks that he is the sexiest man in the room whenever he...
Yes.
Even above Bolt.
Bolt. Oh my god. So funny. Well, and if I could briefly just talk about that, the idea that acting in a soap is a lesser role for an actor is one that soap actors sort of fight with all the time because, I mean, you can talk to Laura. It's interesting because they are pretty cheesy a lot of the time, but you do get some moments where you're like, wow, this person is actually really good, you know? You can see their full range. And the other thing from the actor's point of view is it is a permanent full-time job, which you do not get as an actor. If you have a chance to be on a soap opera for years and years and years, and that's the first big thing that you ever get to do, most actors will take it because it means the difference between eating and not, and staying in the business or not. And it's one of those things, and there's lots of really wonderful actors that came from soaps. I can tell you, I can name several off my head, but probably the most famous that you would hear about is Nathan Fillion, who was in Firefly and all the other things. He was in One Life to Live as Joey for years, like 10 years, I think. So,
I didn't realize he was from a soap. I mean, you hear about like George Clooney, obviously, who was in ER, or one of the Hemsworths was in, I think it was Home and Away for quite a while.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
It's a good place to start.
There's
really.
quite a few people.
Yeah.
The gal on Broadchurch was on Doctors. I can't remember what her name is. Olivia
Colman. Mm-hmm.
Yes, yeah. So it's a good font it's a really good sort of training ground for actors learning the business, I think. And a lot of people just get to the point where they're like, I really love this show. I love the people. I love the community. I love having a full-time job. And it becomes like their family, and they just stay there until they die. And it's really interesting to me that they put that in the movie. So that they kind of touched on that whole aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and then you also just get some of the people who they have been in other things, and then they kind of join the cast, and again, they are in it for years and years and years. Mm-hmm. The one that jumped out to me, because I'm a fan of Red Dwarf, is Craig Charles joined, I think it was Coronation Street.
It was, yeah.
And he was he was basically the taxi driver in Coronation Street for years after Red Dwarf. Until they came back, and then he had to leave.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, it's
funny.
It's always interesting talking about soaps, because, as you said, yes, there is just the stereotype that all soaps are just so cheesy, and people that don't watch soap don't understand why someone that does watch soap does watch them. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of the same way. My mum would watch EastEnders occasionally and Coronation Street sometimes, and so she was kind of following it, and I would see it from time to time, and I would just watch an episode and go, and how is this any different to the one you watched 2 weeks ago? They seem to be having the same conversations and they're arguing about the same things, and only someone's had a haircut, and it's just
That's true.
But yeah, and
isn't that true for other kinds of shows, though? I always ask that.
It's American shows, yes.
Mm-hmm. I think it's true for British shows too. I mean, British mystery shows, it's very formulaic. Yeah. You're gonna get a detective who's a certain kind of person.
Oh, very much so.
You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of shows that are formulaic, and soaps are not alone.
Oh no, I know exactly what you mean. I just finished watching the 7th season of Death in Paradise on Netflix, and that is very much the same thing. Anyone that hasn't seen it, though, I hardly recommend it, because the acting in it is very good.
And cop shows and medical shows, and there's they all have their kinds of tropes. I think the problem is that soaps get dinged for it more than other shows because...
But,
but it's the same thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think soaps often run into the same problem that a lot of American shows do, especially American shows that are translated from English shows, because what happens is you have to create 23 episodes of a show out of something that originally ran for 6.
Yeah.
And so you just pad it, and you keep going back to tropes that have worked in the past, hoping that they're going to work this time. And soaps have to run effectively all year. Yeah. So you're going to hit duplicate plot lines from time to time.
Well, I just don't think there's any other way for them to do it, like you're saying. So, I mean, but again, the British soaps are this way as well. They have to keep returning to the same tropes, and like when you get rid of one villain, you have to get another one. Like, American villains are. I've only been watching the British soaps for a short period of time. Again, I watched them a little bit while I lived there in the early 90s, but it was a long time ago, and so catching up, I'd never watched much EastEnders, and I'd never watched much Emmerdale, and I love Emmerdale, and that's supposed to be the orphan child that everybody's like, man, I don't like, and I love that show. And I cannot tell you how much I show it to other American soap fans, and they're like, I love this show. It's just really appealing to us for some reason, and I don't know why that is, but yeah, they all have that repeat kind of thing going on, and I kind of don't think they have any choice. Like EastEnders seems to have a pattern where they get rid of one bad guy, and then they have to immediately find another bad guy to put in, because they just need to have one person in Walford that's evil, I guess. So, but American soaps have like
resident
villains that keep getting away with it for 20 years, and you have the same villain for years and years and years and years, and they just never ever go down. So, I mean, they're beaten, but they're not usually killed. They usually are just like, taken out for a little while, and then they come back, and we just had a really evil one come back just this last week, actually, so that we thought was gone forever. So.
Well, that's kind of the same as we were saying, even outside of, especially actually, weirdly, so cartoon shows, like kids shows, you have the villain that either disappears for a while or like Claw in Inspector Gadget. Next time, Gadget. Like, it's just...
and superhero comics have that trope as well, where you have the same guy keeping, and the heroes sometimes disappear. I can't even remember how many times has Phoenix come back from the dead. I mean, I know that's her thing.
Kind of in the name,
but,
yeah.
I mean, but you know what I mean? It's like, that's a great character, because like, that's a living trope, right? Of, of that kind of deal. So, but there's a lot in common with soaps and other kinds of shows. I think I was just going to say that the reason that soaps get dinged a lot more is because the lighting isn't so great. The sets are usually not that great. They don't have a lot of money and never have. And so I think it's just harder for people to sort of get used to that sort of clunkiness of it. But the other thing about it is that they may not be the most stellar people at coming up with original plots, but they have the most interesting characters. And some of them are really layered and complex, and some of the storylines that you deal with are really that way and everything. So that's why we like them. But so the movie is making fun of both soaps, and it's sort of it's a farce, but it's also got some warmth behind it. It, like, you can tell that the people who wrote this movie watch soap operas and are fans of them, because you can't make fun of something adequately unless you understand it and know it. So
Right, exactly. And I think probably one of my favorite bits of dialogue is Whoopi Goldberg fighting with Robert Downey Jr. by basically explaining that there's no way Kevin Kline's character could possibly come back because he was beheaded.
Yes, he was decapitated. Can't write for a guy with no head.
And the explanation Robert Downey Jr. gives on how he can come back I thought that was a very soap-like plot for American soap. Yeah, they just put it on ice and they just reconstructed it. It was fine.
So there's stuff like that happening in American soaps all the time. That would not happen in a British soap, but it can in American ones where medicine is magic.
Yeah, definitely.
And science is magic.
Well, and how you had Laurie, they started her out as a deaf mute, and then it's like, oh, now she can talk.
She gets everything back. She's fine now.
With like no explanation, really. No, it's fine. It's fixed.
Yeah, I think the final scene when they are having to live, which is a very odd way of doing it, read through a scene that none of them know the lines of, and they had to just read off so it's like, oh, Laurie has brain fever. Okay. And yeah, just I think that scene was a really good culmination of, here's everything stupid about recurring plots, but we're just gonna really have fun with it. So.
Oh, completely. But soap operas in America, sometimes, I don't know if it was all of them, but in the early days in the 60s, some of them did get shot in front of live audiences, because a lot of television was in front of live audiences then. So I thought that was kind of interesting, a throwback to that.
A lot of Coronation Street in the 60s was actually broadcast live. Like, there was no edits, it was just the actors were doing it as the audience were watching it at home. So that's kind of a little bit of a hark back.
Yeah. Although that must be really a logistical nightmare to plan out.
Yeah, definitely. They do it every now and again still, like for special occasions, but what a nightmare.
It's one of those things where, like, if you think about it, there are films that have long takes. Like, I believe in Children of Men, I think it is, there's a 17-minute long take. Yeah. And you don't want to be the guy at minute 14 that messes up your line. And this is 30, well, depending on the soap, what channel it's on, and which country it's in, it's either going to be 22 minutes, 30 minutes, 28 minutes, or like 46 minutes or whatever. So, yeah, it's interesting that they decided. And was it? Maybe you can tell me this since you've seen the film more than I have. Was it always live, or did they just decide to go live at the end?
Oh, in the movie? No, in the movie, the idea was that they went live because it was a big event, because it had the public's attention, because there was a real-life soap opera story going on. So they were telling the story of the characters in the fake soap opera, but they were also telling the story of the characters who are actors on that soap. So it was just a big, dumb, meta, like, ball of confusion, and so... Yeah, and it was because the soap opera exec just wanted more attention. He's like, "This is gonna get us all sorts of money. Come on, you know." I love it when he says, "I'm paid $1.5 million a year to make these decisions," or whatever it was he said. I'm like,
yeah, that was it. Yes, it's not easy making these decisions, but I'm paid $1.5 million a year.
Yes.
So, all right.
I loved the scene of, like, the writer's room when they were throwing out
yes!
all the weird like, suggestions
the
for what
writer's
to do.
room.
Oh, that was brilliant.
Well, we talk a lot about the writer's room on our show. Whenever we have an idea about what happens next, we're like, what is going on in the writer's room? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? And
I was just kind of surprised that they didn't throw in a joke of where someone throws out a plot line and Robert Downey Jr. just dismisses it entirely, and then 30 seconds later he would put it forward as his own, and everyone would have to go, "Brilliant, yes."
Oh, that would have been pretty realistic, I think.
Sort of happened that not him, but some of the other characters were like, "This is a terrible idea. Oh, it's a great idea."
It was really fun to see some of these things, especially with the writers, because it had that, and I only noticed this a while ago when my wife decided to rewatch Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
And I don't know how common it is in American soaps, but at least in Gilmore Girls, there are no pauses between dialogue between characters. Yeah. The second someone has finished talking, the next person immediately starts the line, so there's just constant talking, and that's what it felt like whenever there was the back and forth between the
it was
cast.
a bit manic at times. I was like, what's happening?
Yeah, especially with Whoopi Goldberg, because obviously she can just go with it. She's got that manic energy to her, and then you had everyone else just reacting around her. So it was very, very interesting to see, and occasionally a little difficult to follow.
Yes. Yeah, I had the subtitles on the whole film.
Yeah, so did I. I've gotten used to doing that now with some films, just because it's way easier than having to try and follow along.
Yeah.
So I'll just read it really quickly.
I do that with the British soap operas. Having lived there, I understand the northern accents. I understand really well because I lived in Manchester. So those are okay. When they hit my ears, I'm like, okay, I think I understand that. But the EastEnders is that really, really sharp, fast, blurry London accent, and I can't. Sometimes they'll be talking, and I'm like, I have no idea what these guys are saying. So I need to back up and put the closed captioning on just to get what they're saying. So I'm completely with you. Sometimes when it's going super fast, you've just got to put it
definitely.
on. No.
So I take it you can't watch the film Snatch without the subtitles then? I don't know if you've seen it.
I've never actually seen it. I've never tried to watch it.
You should,
so.
just because it is a fantastic Guy Ritchie film. But yes, Brad Pitt, for whatever reason, I don't know why they picked him, but Brad Pitt plays a pikey who has an accent that nobody has. And you genuinely can't understand half of what he says. Yeah. And there was actually a subtitle option on the DVD to subtitle what he was saying, but it didn't. What it did was it didn't actually subtitle the words he was saying. It came up with what the line meant.
Like a translation.
Yeah.
That is. It's very hard to understand him in that film.
Yes, and
it's really funny.
Yeah, it really is. It really is fun to watch, though. Like, obviously growing up in England, like I didn't know anyone that talked like that, but I did know people that were kind of like that, and that's the entire point.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it sounds the same to us though when English people or British people do American accents, and people are like, "Oh, like Hugh Laurie, oh, he's so good," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, if he was acting in a 1940s gangster film, yes, but no, he doesn't sound normal. He sounds weird. It's like nobody talks like that." You're going to have to edit a whole bunch of that out because it's got nothing to do with the movie that we watched. We're tangenting on
Clearly you have never listened to this podcast before, because this is what we do.
I should keep on track for you because it's all my fault. I get off on tangents.
Oh, no, it's fine. I'm more than happy to go off on tangent whenever they occur, so...
But I love Hugh. Just to wrap it up, I love Hugh Laurie. It's fine. Yeah. I just didn't agree that he sounded American.
Yeah,
I adore him as Bertie Wooster, which is my favorite role of his. So.
Ah, yes. I haven't watched that in ages.
I am a Woodhouse. I'm a Woodhouse nut. So, yeah, love all those.
Is there anything about Soapdish then, bringing it back to that you would really want to bring up to tell anyone about? Or,
Well, I'll let Laura start.
Let's see. I really loved the twist where Kevin Kline's character was seemingly dating Laurie. And we didn't know why Celeste was being so upset about it. And in the middle of that scene, I was like, Donna! Oh my god! What just happened? And she revealed on camera, "You're my daughter!" I thought that was amazing. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't see it coming. But I loved it.
Yeah, that was a fun little thing, especially given some of the reactions later. I think the scene where Laurie and Kevin Kline's character are talking after that, and he's just like, "Well, you know, what if we'd done something? Had you thought of that?" And she's just like, "Yeah, no, it's fine." She doesn't care in the slightest.
His line was, "One more date and they would have had a Greek tragedy on their hands." I loved it. It was so good.
Yeah, and there was also a very odd bit as well when he says like, "Did you think of that?" And she's just like, "No," and he just said, "Well, I did." Like, yeah. Like, oh, okay.
And also the revenge aspect of it from Montana's point of view.
Yes,
was so good. And she was basically just trying to get rid of Celeste for the entire time and just making it worse. Love that.
Well, why don't we just kill this random girl? It's like, oh, it turned out to be the niece/daughter of the main actress. Damn it. Alright.
In the end, it was just Montana being pushed out of the picture by everybody. Loved it.
Yeah. And then one other thing that I found, and I don't know why I found it funny, but I just did, is the whole thing of Robert Downey Jr. just trying to get with Montana, and every single thing she comes up with was just like, well, not yet. Like,
yes.
But then there's the one scene where she's arguing with him, and she's just like, "We were both naked. You were never naked." It's like, really? Okay.
Yeah, and we did find out that the reason why he wasn't getting anywhere with her was that she used to be a man, I think. Was the upshot of it.
Yeah, she used to be called Milton.
Yeah.
Which...
My question is, what is Mr. Fuzzy? That was my question. All up through the film.
I said I think we don't need to talk about that.
And now I think we know what Mr. Fuzzy was.
Yes, I think it was the gun sticking into the hip there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I did think it was an incredibly odd choice of line. When it was almost try not to end too much, but have either of you two seen Green Wing?
I've seen little bits of it, yeah.
Alright, well, Alan Statham is played by Mark Heap in that, and he is a very, very creepy and weird guy who is in a sort of relationship with the head of HR. And he often will refer to either himself or acts in just these weird ways. And that very much reminded me of that. Just like, will Mr. Fuzzy be making an appearance?
Oh my gosh, so funny.
Just a little bit creepy and weird.
Just a little bit.
So I thought I'd talk about some of the trivia that we found on IMDb, which is some of it pretty humorous.
All right.
So apparently there were extensive reshoots on this film because, which forced Kevin Kline to withdraw from Hook, and he was replaced by Robin Williams.
Which I think
is
so good, because Robin Williams, not as Peter Pan, that wouldn't have been as good.
No, I mean, Robin Williams was Peter Pan. I mean, there's just...
I mean, it's awesome to know that Kevin Kline that they wanted him for that role, because he is wonderful, but he doesn't have the same
doesn't have the
comedic...
magic.
Yeah.
I can't imagine
so that's interesting.
Such a hit without Robin Williams.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see what else. Burt Reynolds actually turned down the lead role that Kevin Kline was in because Lonnie Anderson, his wife, told him that the whole Hollywood affair that he had with Sally Field, that everybody in Hollywood would laugh at them because they'd had a very public love affair. So he didn't take the role.
Can you imagine Burt Reynolds in this?
I can, actually.
Yeah, it kind of would have fit the character, but...
It would have fit Burt really well, I think. So
is that why Kevin Kline had a moustache for this film?
I don't know.
Why does Kevin Kline do anything that he does?
Yeah, this is true.
I mean, I'll be honest, I really enjoy Kevin Kline in Wild Wild West. Even though I know the film's terrible, I still really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I definitely got hints of his sort of weird side in that, and this is sort of that to the nth degree.
Yeah, well, Kevin Kline was nominated for a Golden Globe for this film.
Yes.
Was deserving, but I'm heartily annoyed that Sally Field was not nominated for her performance.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it definitely should have.
She should have
been
been
in there,
for sure.
But no.
So let's see what else is there. There was some other stuff on here that I thought was pretty interesting. Oh, the other stars that starred in soap operas besides Finola Hughes, Kevin Kline, Terry Hatcher, and Paul Johansson all starred in various soap operas before they hit it big. Yeah.
Oh,
so yes.
Yes, and for those of you who are like, Terry Hatcher, how do I know that name? It's like, yeah, they had Lois from Lois and Clark, and so it was very interesting role.
She also did the voice of Yzma in The Emperor's New Groove, and she was on a show here that I can't remember the name of right now, but I don't think it went over there. So it had David Spade in it, and I can't remember what the name of the show is. So because my brain doesn't work anymore. But anyway, so yeah, she's pretty famous over here.
just a little bit, yeah, and hang on, just double checking. Are you sure she was Yzma?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
Terry Hatcher? I don't think so.
I think she was. Let me click and find out for sure. I'm pretty sure.
I'm fairly certain that the person that played Yzma died a few years ago.
Well, let's take a peek. Oh no, it was Eartha Kitt. Yeah, Terry Hatcher played.
Was it Pasha's wife?
She was. Yes, thank you. I just got the characters. I got the characters mixed up. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, such a iconic voice. So I was going to be like, well, I'm not sure.
Yes, for sure. I can't remember what's the name of the character in here.
I'll just kind of edit around that so it's just a lot shorter.
Just cut everything out except, Terry Hatcher's pretty famous. I mean, obviously, she's...
Yeah, it'll just end it. And Terry Hatcher. And then move on to the next.
And Terry Hatcher. Yay, moving on. Sorry about
That's
that.
All right. So, yeah, let me just do a quick check on time. Okay. So, is there anything else you guys wanted to touch on before we just kind of try and wrap up here?
Nope, I think that's about it for me.
We covered all the important parts.
Alright, so why don't we end with just saying, obviously, like, you guys really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed bits and pieces of it, obviously, so why don't we end with our favourite bit from the film? So either a scene or just even a bit of dialogue or whatever.
Okay.
Cool.
Alright, so why don't you guys go first this time?
Okay, go down.
Let's try to get my notes back up because I closed them.
Okay, well, I'll go instead then.
Okay.
So, one of my favorite parts of this film was during the scene where they were reading from the auto cue to see who was leaving the show, when Kevin Kline was blind as a bat and couldn't read the words. And he was saying everything a little bit backwards, and it just reminded me of classic comedy, Allo Allo and Officer Crabtree, where everything was a bit off.
Yes.
And he
Good
had to be
moment.
corrected, yes. But the things he was saying that were wrong were so funny. That was one of my favourite parts.
Yes, and of course with Sally Fields just being like, I think you mean this. So, yes.
You mean her brain will explode? Yes, that's what I meant. So yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh gosh, there's so many fun parts of this movie, but I think I really like the part. The part that comes to mind is where Laurie and Celeste are arguing about their whole situation as mother and daughter, and Laurie says, I don't give a shit what you're going through, and she says, there's no need to use that kind of language. I was like, oh my god, that's my mom. That's
Yeah.
There's no reason to curse.
And also when in that kind of those two characters, when Celeste started reaming off a script from an old episode of The Soap, and Laurie was like, isn't that from the Thanksgiving episode? Like 2 years ago.
Yes. When she was going, I just tried to be the best mother I could be, or whatever. It was
I like that.
Just
that
ridiculous. There's just a lot of little one-liners. There's a line in there where the guy goes, I love your outfit or something, or I love your eyes. You have such beautiful eyes. And this actress goes, you should see my tits. You know? It's just dying. Like
Definitely.
the whole film. I'm sorry, I didn't know if there was cursing on your
Oh, there is.
Okay. I've only listened to one episode recently, and it's been a while since I listened to since your co-host went on hiatus. So, I just apologize.
That's fine. Yes, life gets in the way.
Yes.
But yeah, I think possibly my favorite bit in it. It's just a really weird bit, and it's Kevin Kline, is when Robert Downey Jr. goes to see him and then offer him the job, and of course he's just yelling over everything that's going around in the theatre thing, and so Robert Downey Jr. goes in to say, I'm here for this bit, and he just starts going, no, it was awful. And then he just said, like, yeah, I'd like to give you the job. Oh, okay, well, why don't we go?
Yes.
In fact, I think mostly just Kevin Kline is the reason to watch this. I would happily just watch the scenes that he's in. Skip everything else.
Well,
it's really very
for
funny.
me, as long as you're not trying to keep track of whether they're filming in the soap on the movie, it's an easy watch. Just don't try and figure out whether they're in real life or in the soap.
No, I will say there is actually one scene that I genuinely do not know if it is a scene that they're filming for the soap or if it was a scene that was supposed to have happened in the reality of the film. And it's when they're talking in a house, and it's like it's Celeste and Kevin Kline's character, and Montana, and I think Bolt or whatever, and like they're just all talking, and the guy turns up, to comes through the door. It's like, what are you doing here? Well, I was over here. It's like I genuinely don't remember if that's supposed to be in the soap
No.
or what's supposed to have happened. I don't really want to know. Right?
No.
I'm just.
Yeah, there was a lot of moments where I was like, are they filming in this? What? But aside from that, it's such an easy, fun watch. Go for it.
Yeah, definitely. If you're a fan of soaps at all, you'll enjoy it. And I was able to really enjoy the meta humor in it. So that's kind of what got me through it, as well as just watching some people having a lot of fun with their roles.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'd say if you like the actors, any of the actors, and you like comedy, go ahead and give it a watch. You'll probably think it's funny. And for people that watch soap operas, they probably have watched it, but for those who haven't, this movie is to soap operas as Spaceballs is to science fiction. So,
yeah, I would say that's true.
Yeah, you kind of have to get it to laugh in some parts for sure, but it is overall pretty funny. So
yeah.
One of my favorites.
Well, there you go. I can see why you picked it.
Yeah.
I'm so pleased that I have now seen it because I loved it.
And also, I mean, we're a little defensive about our chosen television show watching habit, but it's all in good fun. So we're not like, how dare you? It's not like that.
People.
Just no.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on and talking about this one. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. No problem. Why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Sure thing. We are available on all the podcatchers and all the places on the internet. We have a Facebook, we have an Instagram, we have a Twitter. You just Google the Soapy Madams Podcast. We're at Blazing Caribou Studios.
If you search for @Soapy Madams Pod, you will find us on the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever.
Yeah.
We're everywhere, kind of.
And we hope that you'll agree to come on our show. We'd like you to watch an American soap opera with us and come on the show and talk about it you just watch for a week and come on. We have occasionally got a guest podcaster that we have them, if they're American, we have them watch the British show. And if they are British, we have them watch the American show. And then we come on and laugh about it, and it's a real good time.
All right, I will seriously consider taking you up on it.
Please do, because I think you would probably have a blast.
Well, here's hope. All right, well, once more, thanks for coming on. And I hope that you'll consider coming on again, maybe even reviewing something that's not soap-related.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
Unless you want to go meta with it and say, let's review Fight Club. Since obviously there's soap in that.
I'll do it.
I think that would just be interesting to have people that review soaps just go on and review Fight Club.
See if we can find commonalities.
Yeah,
who knows, we probably could.
Yeah.
That is a very soapy plot if you think about it.
I was going to say, I'm sure you could find something. Your task would be to find 3 different soaps that had at least something in common with the plot line.
Right. That would be funny.
Alright, well, yes, thanks for coming on, and obviously they said where you can find them. As I said at the beginning, you can find us pretty much anywhere that you find social media feeds / podcasts. Just search BlokeBusters, we're there, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Hang on a minute, lads. I've got a great idea.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
Hi there, Paul here with a quick theatre etiquette lesson for you. Did you know that opening a bag of candy can take less than 5 seconds?